right, so I'm Matt Epstein. I'm president of Sherman Homeowners Association, and this is our fantastic board of directors. And they're all going to come and introduce themselves, and I'm going to go in the back and invite them, folks.
Thanks, Matt. I'm Bob Anderson. I'm vice president and also chair of the transportation committee. I'll be talking in a couple of minutes.
We have Pamela Chapman, I'm vice president, and I have the legislative committee.
Hi, I'm Jay Weitzler. I'm the secretary of the organization, along with Jules, a representative to the Buckley School. And I always like to point out two members, the chief financial officer, Lisa Turchin is here. She usually is. Sally. Lisa Turchin, there we go. Lisa Turchin, the chief financial officer from the Buckley School, is generally here, and Sally Sakon, who's waving her hand, chief of strategic, or director of strategic marketing and communications. And they're here for you to ask them any questions you might ask about Buckley School, in addition to just showing their support for SOHA as well. Thank you.
Thanks. You guys can come on over here. You got to stand in the middle because we are also on Zoom. So we've got quite a few folks at home on Zoom. So
Sean Kurzweil, I'm a member of the board, one of the new members of the board, and I'm on the Housing Committee and the Van Nuys Airport Committee. And I left these flyers on the tables for everyone for the May 18th Run, Hide, and Fight event at the Buckley School. Obviously, these drills are important.
Hi, I'm Marshall Long. I am co-chair of the Land Use Committee, and
honorary mayor.
Hi, everybody. So I'm community outreach, and I want you to know that I'm very happy to tell you all that we got rid of all the news racks on Ventura Boulevard. I have a new project, but I'm not going to tell you about it now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jules. Hi, my name is Larry Slade. I am a new board member to SOHA, and I have the honor to chair the homelessness committee for the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our meeting. Good to see you all. I'm Nancy Segoyan. I am the membership chair. So if you're not a member, you should be if you're here and enjoying our wonderful meeting and informative meeting. So we invite you to join. You can come and see me, or we have applications up in the front. So thank you. I also am a co-chair of the airport committee, and we are sort of taking a deep dive into what's happening at Van Nuys in terms of expansion, and also Burbank, which I'm doing with my partner here, Jay Weitzler. Thank you.
Hi, I'm John Eisen, treasurer of the association.
That's it. That's it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Blick. I'm with Marshall, the co-chair of the and that's it.
Larry, did you come up already? You did? Okay, awesome. Aaron. So did anybody here enjoy the food tonight? So Boneyard Bistro's been around Sherman Oaks since 2004, 2005. Okay, they are the best. And Aaron Robbins here is the owner. And so I heard a few of you guys were like, where's Boneyard Bistro? I've never seen it before. Come on, you guys. Really? There's a little street called Ventura Boulevard. They're right there, smack in the middle. What is that? Is that slow? A lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. So again, he's going to tell you a little bit about himself. Thank you so much. I always love your food, and thank you for supporting Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. And you want to talk about it?
Hi, everybody. You're talking to them. Glad everybody enjoyed dinner. We've been there for almost 18 years now. So if you lived in Sherman Oaks,
and you haven't been there, but yet you're at a homeowners association meeting, read the writing on the wall. I think I can speak for a lot of the restaurants, Paul, definitely. Especially our side of the valley has been slow to return after the pandemic. We know West Valley is moving pretty well. Santa Clarita wasn't aware there was a pandemic. It's okay to come out and go eat at restaurants. What no one talked about is we have huge exhaust hoods that move more air than anywhere else. We need everybody back. The restaurants took a beating like nobody could ever imagine. A lot of them didn't come through it, and a lot of them are starting to die right now. PPP ran out for a lot, and they are starting to close, including heavyweights in the city are closing. We need everybody coming out and enjoying it themselves again. The remote work slowed down everybody's happy hours. It's still a happy hour. Drinks are good, food's good. So we want everyone to come out. I think the sense of community is something we all miss. That's why we're all here. So our restaurants is where we have our community. It's where we see our neighbors. It's where we go out to dinner with them. We meet friends who live in the neighborhood, and we either watch sports, have a beer, have a cocktail, eat some ribs, have a steak, burger. That's it. So we've been there for almost 18 years, but let me tell you, those last three, Paul over here will attest to it, Apple attest to it. This was not fun, and it's going to take a lot to keep us alive. We need you guys to come back. And honestly, put the money and the financial end aside. We miss you. We miss everything. That's why we're in the business in the first place. I could have been a hedge fund manager, but I like to cook for you. So that's pretty much it. Come see us on Ventura.
Awesome. And what do you do? What do you do on Monday nights?
Monday nights is project.
Fried chicken night, everybody. If you want, if you want to get there early. It is fantastic fried chicken. So Monday nights only, right?
Monday nights only.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Great seeing you. Okay, so could the elected staffs, Andy, you guys come on up here. Lindsay, you want to come on up here? So Lindsay is not going to play the piano for us tonight, but she does play the piano for the Anaheim Ducks. She's the organist. But what else is she? She's also the neighborhood council president. I keep calling her chair, and it's president. So anyway.
Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Lindsay Imber, president of the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, with 3 quick announcements for you. First, our treasurer, Jeffrey Hartzell, has been putting these flyers on all your tables. We have a tree giveaway that we are doing with Council District 4 this Saturday at Sherman Oaks Park. Come adopt a tree. Second, the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council elections cycle is beginning. So learn how you can vote. The voting will actually take place later in May, and in June you can either vote by mail or in person. And third, our next Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council Board meeting is May 8th, Monday at Lewis Armstrong Middle School. On the flyers is our website, shermanoaksnc.org. Thanks, everyone.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sebastian Lozano. I'm Assembly Member Laura Friedman's District Director for the 44th Assembly District. Very happy to be here with you all tonight. If it wasn't for SOHA, I wouldn't have discovered half the restaurants in Sherman Oaks. So it's really good to be here again. I'll make it really quick. Our office is here to serve you. We're your liaison between you and the state government. Any assistance you need with Franchise Tax Board, DMV, ED, feel free to reach out to my office. My field rep and myself are always ready to assist. We have a lot of great legislation we're introducing this year. I'll touch on one really quick, AB 645. It's a speed safety camera program, pilot program that we're going to be, excuse me. You have such a great guest speaker tonight. I want to make sure you have time, but AB 645 is a speed safety camera pilot program that we're going to be doing here in Los Angeles. We're gonna be installing in streets that have a lot of, safety incidents, a lot of pedestrians. There'll be fines, and eventually, from the data that's collected, we'll introduce street calming measures. If you want to know more about it, feel free to contact my office. Like I said, we're always here to help, and I have business cards for anybody who needs them. Thank you very much.
All right, our neighborhood prosecutor, the best dressed man in Sherman Oaks.
Wow. I accept. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Solomon from the city attorney's office. I am the neighborhood prosecutor. You all know me now, but here are a couple of projects I've been working on. So I've been meeting with businesses on Ventura Boulevard and thereabouts. We've been trying to figure out how to suppress the crime that's going on there, a lot of the homeless related issues. I've gotten my first case from there. I filed it. I don't know if the person will show up, but if he doesn't, the bench warrant will issue. We could talk to the SLOs about finding the person and picking them up. They're a person who repeatedly goes to the same area, so I assume we'll be able to find them. Second issue was brought up to me by CD4. Ryan was dealing with something that revealed an issue that we see every now and then in Sherman Oaks, where people cut down trees without a permit. And now I'm working with CD4 and the Forestry Division and LADBS. We're trying to figure out a system so that we can accurately take enforcement action and penalize people who need to be penalized, and do something about that, because it's a huge offense, as you all know, and we feel very strongly about it. So we've been working together on that. If you have any issues, email me. My email address is Andy, ANDY.Solomon, SOLIMAN @lacity.org. Thank you very much. This is kind of like when the teacher's not here right now.
Okay, I'm gonna give a really quick report, everyone. Hi, my name is Ryan Ahari, the Sherman Oaks Field Deputy for Councilmember Nithya Raman. Since the council member is here tonight, I will be very brief. So as President Lindsay Imber said, we will be at the park on April 22nd, not only giving away trees, but also our wonderful compost pails. So if you did not receive a compost pail and you would like one, first off, get a tree in partnership with the neighborhood council and CD4, but also come and get a compost pail for free that you can place on your kitchen counter. And I hope you read our newsletter to see our wonderful mayor featured, who is responsible for getting all of those nasty news rats off of our major streets. The honorary mayor. Our wonderful Jules Spear, everybody. Let's give it up for Jules. Also, if anyone needs my contact information, I have cards, so don't be afraid to ask me. I'll be passing them around later tonight. Thank you, everyone.
And just so, because Nithya's here, what do you guys think of Ryan? Is he doing a great job? Thank you. Ryan is very responsive to our community. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Nithya. And also, Sean, I'm sorry. I know you were usually the best dressed person in Sherman Oaks, but Andy took your crown. Sorry, Sean.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Sophia Sudani. I'm the new field deputy for Supervisor Lindsay Horvath. I'm very excited to be here. I worked about 3 years in the Valley, so very nice getting off of Van Nuys Boulevard and coming down to see all of you. So thank you so much for the warm welcome. A couple updates from her office. The supervisor just celebrated her first 100 days in office. We did a big celebration there in the Valley, and I really appreciate all of you that showed up and so celebrated. Some of the big accomplishments that she's done in her first 100 days. One, the LA Homelessness Initiative that was just introduced. We're working on that to try to move the red tape around any kind of homelessness efforts, try to expedite services, and hopefully by August, we'll have about 250 new positions that will be in the homelessness sector. So very exciting news on that front. Also, as everyone is aware, hopefully the state of emergency around rental assistance is ended on March 31st. If anybody needs resources, please check out Safe House LA. And then lastly, there's county grants available. If you're interested at all, have a nonprofit that wants to get more information, please do reach out. And my contact information is Sudani, SOUDANI @bos.lacounty.gov. I had to remember that one for a second, but thank you all for the warm welcome, and I'll be around.
Thank you. That's it for okay. So Fran, You want to come on up here? So Tom is the newest member of Fran's committee. So Tom, I thought was going to give a report, but Fran's here, so we'd rather hear it from Fran anyway. So take it. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Okay. My name is Fran Kersner. I'm the president of the Sherman Oaks Chamber Foundation. We are the organization that has been painting all of the utility boxes, the LADOT utility boxes all throughout Sherman Oaks. I want to introduce you to board member Ren Thero, who is also an artist, and artist Daisy Villasenor. Those of you who don't know, we were formed as a spinoff from the Sherman Oaks Chamber of Commerce in 2015, and in 2017 we started painting these utility boxes, and to date we've painted over 100 of them. We're the only organization in the entire city that's taken over an entire community and committed to painting them all. So we really appreciate everybody's support, especially I want to call out CD4, Ryan Nithya's office, for their financial and other support of this initiative. We really appreciate it. Couldn't do it without them. I want to call out SOHA because they actually have sponsored one of the boxes that's going to be painted this Saturday. If anybody wants to go see, that's on Ventura Boulevard at Vesper. And we just want to get more involved with the community. So we would love for you to get involved. I have a sign-up sheet back there where we can put you on our mailing list whenever we do events. Or fundraisers or whatever, we would love for you to come join us. And also just to let you know that anyone, a business, an individual can also sponsor a box. So if you're interested in that, we put some cards on the table. So take one, contact us. Our email is shermanoaksfoundation@gmail on the card. And please follow us on our social media. That's where you'll see the newest boxes. Every time there's a new box painted, I post on there, and it's just at Let's Paint Sherman Oaks. So we're both on Instagram and we are on Facebook. So that's about it. We really appreciate your support and hope to see you at our event.
Thank you, Fran. Thank you. Okay, so we have 3 committee reports in the order: Larry Slade, Maria, and then Bob, and then we're going to get to the headliner tonight right after that. So, by the way, folks. By the way, if any of this stuff resonates with you, if you guys want to paint, get involved in the painting of the boxes, go see Fran. We also have Tom Glick in the back. He's our one of our board members. He's on that committee. So if you hear one of the committee members tonight that that resonates with you, you want to get involved, come and don't be shy. Introduce yourself to the chair of that committee, and we'd love to have you involved. We're as successful as an organization as we are, as far as you guys are involved as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Again, my name is Larry Slade, and first I want to say thank you for coming. This is an excellent turnout tonight. A lot of people here, so put your hands together for yourself for showing up for your community. Very important. You got to show up about the habits, so thank you. At this meeting next month, our general membership meeting, the meeting will be dedicated to focusing on the homelessness issue. My committee will be hosting a roundtable discussion about homelessness and how it impacts Sherman Oaks, but with specific regard to those subset of the homeless that refuse to be housed. We often hear that a solution to homelessness is housing, and that is a true statement to the extent that those who can be helped want to be helped. But there's a percentage of the population, for whatever reason, refuses to go indoors. They refuse to accept help, and they for whatever reason want to stay on the street. So we'll be exploring the issues around how does the city, the county, and the state address that segment of the population, which my committee feels poses the greatest threat to our quality of life in Sherman Oaks. It has the most profound impact on the way we interact with our community, the way we walk down the street, and we're looking for as many solutions as we can, and to work with the elected officials and the private organizations to try to create as profound a solution as we can to this seemingly intractable problem. So next month, we're going to dig into that. We're going to have a detailed discussion about what can we be doing differently, what can we be doing better, and what are the plans to fix this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Great job. And can I just, some of the board members, or I'm sorry, some of your committee members, if you guys are here, can you stand up? Sean? Okay, these are the folks that are on this committee along with Larry. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. Maria?
So I chair the legislative committee, and there's nothing new to really report. But Tom Glick and I keep writing and talking about the housing element and community plan updates. And the reason we do that is because the city is rezoning all the communities in order to meet the state mandate for the housing quotas they've been given. And Sherman Oaks is going to get rezoned. So we know the city has actually identified 5 times more sites for rezoning than they need. And they tell us that they did that so they could be flexible to remove whatever site isn't as appropriate. And we have said that we feel all the housing we need can be done on our commercial corridors. And we are hoping that we can have that done. But the city has some special zoning overlays in our single family neighborhoods, in some of the Sherman Oaks single family neighborhoods that we don't want there. And what will happen is it allows 16 units of housing on a single lot, which would be an apartment. And we don't think we need that. And in multifamily areas, they ask for a 50% density bonus, which means a lot of our more affordable apartment units might be demolished as a result of that. So we continue to meet with the city planning department, and we've met with our council member. We're hoping to get these overlays removed and to get good planning done in our community for a lot more housing that's affordable. So did I cover it, Tom?
I think you covered everything. I did the community plan update last month, but just so you guys know, I gave the same speech last month about the Southeast Community Plan update, which is really going to be the implementation tool for what Maria just spelled. That's where they're going to be doing the zoning. So keep in mind when that comes forward to get involved and look at the maps, look at what they're doing. Look what they're proposing in your neighborhoods. Just make sure that you're, as I said in the newsletter, when I worked for the planning department and we would do these rezoning, a year later after it was adopted, people would come and say, I didn't know about it. I don't know how you respond to that other than we notified people at every level to get involved. So this is our attempt to make sure people get involved and not after the fact, I didn't know about it.
Yeah, so we'll keep you informed.
Awesome, thank you. All right, the last committee report is from our vice president. Maria's also vice president. Other vice president, Bob Anderson and Peter Pack.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to give you the latest update on the Sepulveda Transit Corridor Program. This is the transit they're going to put through the Sepulveda Pass. We're working closely with an organization in Bel Air called Keep Bel Air Beautiful. And Keep Bel Air Beautiful is an interesting organization. It's headed by a man who is quite powerful. He was the founder Ticketmaster, and he's got a few bucks, so he filed a lawsuit against me 2 weeks ago. In November, we asked Metro for about 1,000 documents, stuff that the public should have so we can know about the project. Well, they have 14 days to respond. Well, they gave themselves 5 unilateral 15-day extensions. At 115 days, my friend in Bel Air, Fred, said, oh, to hell with this, I'm just going to sue him. So now Metro is conducting huge committee meetings inside Metro to figure out which documents they can give us. So more of our tax money, just give us the documents. Folks, I'm telling you, I've studied this for 8 years. There's stuff you need to know that Metro refuses to tell you. They refuse to tell me. They refuse to tell anybody. They don't even tell their board members. They hide information from their board of directors. And we're stopping. We're going to stop it. We're going to get the information. We're going to get it out. And it's just not right. And we need this project, but we need it done right. And we're going to get there. So thanks very much.
Thank you. All right. And by the way, that clap was a clap for Bob, not for the other side. This is the owner of Blue Dog Cafe, which is right there, which is definitely going to be impacted if that project goes the wrong way. Okay, so Councilmember Nithya Raman, everybody. So, she supports our community as far as being our council member and comes to our meetings. Actually, last time is this your first?
This is my
First in person?
My first in person since my primary night
Oh,
today,
wow.
hosted by Phil Sherman.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that was fun.
That was really fun.
That was
Phil and I were reminiscing about.
okay. Bill's a good guy and a big supporter of this organization as well. Okay. Well, why don't you tell us? We've got a bunch of questions from the audience, and they're all really easy questions, as you can imagine. And if you guys do have any questions, please just bring them up to me quietly and put them over here. I have a bunch of questions that were already sent in, so we're going to go through those. I guarantee you, I will not have time to ask all the questions. If I don't ask your question, and I know it's going to be the absolute best question that should have been asked, your emails are on it, and we will give these to her staff, and she will, or her staff member will get back to you guys. Okay.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Yeah, did you guys enjoy the meal? Let's give another big round of applause to Homeowners. Thank you all so much. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you all so much for having me tonight. As Matt said, my name is Nithya Raman. I'm the council member for the 4th district, which now, after redistricting, stretches from northern Silver Lake to Reseda. It's 260,000 constituents. Yes, council districts in Los Angeles are quite large, but Sherman Oaks is a very special place for me, and I wanted to just start by sharing just a very quick story. When I was last year, when the Sherman Oaks Little League had their opening day, they invited me to throw out the pitch, which was terrifying, and I didn't do a good job, but I did it. And my son and daughter, I have 7-year-old twins. My son and daughter and my husband came with me, and my son demanded that we stay and we watch 2 games, and then he demanded that he join the league. So now I spend basically every Saturday and Sunday, or my family, my husband and my kids spend every Saturday and Sunday eating burgers and playing Little League here, right here in VNSO Park. So it's just really lovely, because I think the Sherman Oaks Little League is just a marker of what makes Sherman Oaks so special. And actually the whole council district is made up of these little neighborhoods that feel like big communities, where you can walk down the street and really get to know people. And Sherman Oaks is very, very special. And now, thanks to our participation in the Little League, I feel like I've been invited to be part of a very special part of this community. So thank you all for welcoming me, and thank you all for welcoming me here as well. I know there's a lot of questions, so why don't I start with 2 issues that our office has been working on related to some of the community updates that our committee members talked about earlier. So let's start with Larry Slade's comments about people who don't want housing and our homelessness challenge. So for those of you who don't know me, as I said, I'm a mother of 7-year-old twins. I wasn't involved in politics really before I ran for office and won in 2020. I ran for office because I started a neighborhood volunteer group on the issue of homelessness. In my neighborhood, I saw more tents in my community than I had seen before, and I didn't see a robust city response. So I started this big volunteer group. On my days off from work, on nights and weekends, I was working to try and get people who are experiencing homelessness in my neighborhood into housing. And we were doing it as volunteers. We would hold shower programs. We paid for case managers to come out and talk to people who were experiencing homelessness. And we were making connections that people who were living on the streets weren't actually making on their own, because the city hadn't created a system that was really getting people off the streets. And so I felt a real urgency for change. And I remember very clearly in one afternoon in my volunteer group, looking around that room and thinking to myself, gosh, this is a group of people who are leaving their families behind. They're leaving their children, their work behind, and they're volunteering to do what the city is supposed to be doing better, like many of you are doing in your committee work. And I wanted that same urgency of change that I felt in that room reflected in my city government. And that's really what pushed me to run for office. It was the first time I'd really interacted with the electoral form of local politics. And it was really fascinating. And my hope is that what we've done in office is to put some of that urgency into practice in our work. And we've done that, I think, hopefully most effectively in our homelessness work. So when we talk about homelessness in Los Angeles, one of the reasons it looks the way it does here, with so many tents on the street, so many RVs on the street, so many makeshift structures, people just sleeping on sleeping bags, is because Los Angeles has a very unique problem with regards to homelessness. The city of New York actually has more people who are homeless than the city of Los Angeles, even more than the county. But because of a law, a court case in the 80s that mandated that the city of New York have a shelter bed for every person who is experiencing homelessness, their unsheltered homeless population, that is the number of people who are on the streets in tents, in RVs, sleeping without any form of shelter at all, they have way fewer than we do, right? So in the city of New York, they have something like 80,000 people experiencing homelessness. Please don't quote me on these numbers, but they're approximately right. And about 2,000 people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness in that city. Here in the city of Los Angeles, we have about 42,000 people who are experiencing homelessness. We have about 14,000 shelter beds and 28,000 people sleeping on the street versus 2,000. That is a huge difference. And that difference accounts for the way in which this city experiences homelessness. That's why we experience homelessness in this particular way. That when you lose your home, you end up not in a shelter, not in a permanent housing unit, but in a tent on the street. And that when you're housed and you are experiencing the problem of homelessness in Los Angeles, that you're encountering that when you walk around the streets. So in our office, what we've been doing is really to try and increase the resources that we have in our district for people who are experiencing homelessness. And primarily that resource is finding beds. And since I've come into office, I've opened up a Project Roomkey site. Now that's been converted into a long-term interim site. We've raised money from the governor's budget and from Adam Schiff from the congressional appropriations process to add even more beds in the form of hotel and motel rooms to our district. And because we've been able to increase the number of beds that we have available to us, we're able to combine that with the other key elements of service and outreach. So you go out there, you talk to someone experiencing homelessness, you get to know them, you build a little trust, and you're able to move them indoors. And so person by person, when you put together these two things, it's a math problem. Housing plus services equals people moving off the streets and indoors. And that's what ultimately all of us want, is an end to homelessness, especially in the way that it presents itself here in the city of Los Angeles. And so for us here in our district, what I've done is do that across encampments in the city. So encampment by encampment, person by person, we've worked to do exactly that. Find the beds, find the services, and get those people indoors. And you've seen that change, hopefully, in the Sherman Oaks neighborhood and in the surrounding neighborhoods. Tents under the Coldwater 101 underpass. There were many when I got elected. We managed to get every single person indoors. And because we got them indoors and didn't move them across the street or down the street, those tents did not return. Under the Van Nuys 101 underpass, at the Fruitland and Ventura encampment, which used to be in that Hollywood Bowl Park and Ride, they were kicked out of that, so they moved. A bunch of individuals moved across the street. And I got that during redistricting, and within 6 weeks, we were able to get every single person indoors by offering exactly that combination of housing plus services. Larry talked about an issue, the people who don't want services. In our experience, that number, once you can actually get the resources that you need, that number shrinks considerably. And so once you have a much smaller number of people to work with, you can bring the kinds of resources that our county supervisors can bring, because they have the Department of Mental Health under their jurisdiction. And you can bring mental health services and really work on getting those last individuals who are really struggling with mental health issues and work on getting them indoors. But if you're able to bring housing and resources to people, you can basically reduce the size of homelessness on our city streets by a huge amount. And it is really exciting to see. And I'm very proud to say that after many years of increases in our district in street homelessness, including double-digit increases in many years. In my first year that we have data for, we saw a 7% drop in street homelessness. And I'm hopeful that we can keep going in that way. And at encampment after encampment in the district, we've seen those changes where we've gotten every single person indoors. I want to talk about the second issue, which Maria brought up, and then I can move on to the questions. Maria talked about the housing element process, right? And the community plans. How many of you guys know what the housing element is? A lot of people know? Well, a lot of people don't. You know, so you've done your work, Maria, but there's still more work to do, right? Why is the housing element process important? And why is the community plan updating process important? I want to talk about something that you didn't talk about, which I think is important to think about, especially because I sit around that horseshoe and multiple people in that building in City Hall, multiple people who were my seatmates are in jail or going to jail because they do the kinds of things they shouldn't have been doing, right? But that's why actually updating these plans is really important for Los Angeles. So I want to talk about how important it is to update these plans. And here's the reason why. When you have an outdated community plan, like our community plans all over our city are 2-3 decades old, right? So they don't match. Those were written a long time ago. Do they match our needs today? No. And so every project that comes in requires what's known as a variance from your community plan. And who gives out those variances? Your elected official. And isn't that an opportunity that is right for bribery, exactly the kind of bribery and corruption that I think has been such a problem for Los Angeles? So that's why it's important, even as you're moving forward in the housing element update process and in the rezoning process for community plans, even as you're pushing for what you want in your neighborhood, how you want your neighborhood to be developing, with that, all of us need to step up and say, you better do this fast. Because it is important for us to have integrity in City Hall. And one way is to remove some of the discretion that each individual council has over an individual parcel. Because what happens when I get to decide, well, that developer's friend donates to my campaign, boom, 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 and then that parcel is changed. And it's changed in ways that may not be good for you, but is good for my reelection campaign or good for someone else's reelection campaign or whatever else, right? So let's try and take that away. So updating the community plans, I think, is important. But you talked, Maria, about the 6-story or the 16-unit overlays. And I wanted to just set this room at ease a little bit on those issues. Yes, there is rezoning plan for Sherman Oaks. Yes, there will be some greater density, particularly along the boulevards. But I did want to share with you that that particular element, the affordable housing overlay, which I think you were talking about, right? No? My understanding is that that overlay is not going to result in 16 in multiple story units.
TOC expansion, the 16 units on a single family lot.
Yeah, 6 stories.
I don't think, and I think we're finding out about that, but my understanding is that the affordable housing overlay zone that's being considered by our office, that is not being considered for R1 zones, right? And then the TOC program, I think it will have limited impact here because of the way that that is structured. But I think that's something that we can certainly explore and get back to you on.
Like in Sherman Oaks, we only have TOC expansion. We don't have.
Oh, sorry. So she's saying in Sherman Oaks, we only have TOC expansion. But our understanding, and Michelle, who's here, who's our planning director, I'm sure many of you guys have interacted with Michelle during our contentious Chick-fil-A, but ultimately successful fight against that drive-through. Michelle was your champion, your stalwart pushing, so she managed to make sure that that Chick-fil-A came in, but did not have a drive-through, which would impact the community. So good work, Michelle. But Michelle and can certainly get back to you on any concerns that you have. But ultimately, I just wanted to say that I think the goals that you outlined, which is density along those major corridors, that will bring us hopefully some larger projects along those corridors that can yield a larger number of rental units here in Sherman Oaks. Hopefully, a percentage of them will be deed restricted affordable housing units. That is a strategy that is both embedded in the way that the housing element is designed, and it is also the goal of our office. So in that, I just want to say, in that vision, we really stand with you and we'll be fighting for your vision here in this process. So you can count on us as a partner in thinking through that. Yeah. Okay, so Matt is trying to take this microphone away.
Sit down, relax.
I'm a very small person. I need to stand to project.
So, just so you know, Tom in the back worked for the planning department for 20 something years, how many years, Tom? 25 years.
25 or 35?
Long time. I was a planning commissioner, appointed planning commissioner for the city of Los Angeles for 13 years.
Yeah.
Between Tom and I, we can tell you 2 or 3 little tiny things that the city can do where corruption with city council members, as you explained it, will never happen again. So if you want, we can sit down. It's such an easy fix. It's such an easy fix, but it's going to have to change one rule in the city in the city charter.
Right.
And it's just one rule that can be changed. The whole thing that there could not be corruption. So Tom and I are happy to go ahead and sit with you on that.
Okay.
So I have a question before I get into the questions, and I don't know if you have the answer on this. However, the amount of homeless people in Sherman Oaks versus the amount of beds that are either available or the amount of beds that are in the pipeline. Do you have any numbers on that?
We only have numbers from last year's count, so they wouldn't be accurate anymore. So I'm not sure what those would be and frankly, the beds are not in Sherman Oaks.
No,
right?
CD4.
So CD4, we have between all of these different. So we have a shelter in a bridge home shelter in Silver Lake, which has about 100 beds, depending on a couple of different things, including whether there's a COVID outbreak there. There's a family shelter which has 26 rooms, also near that same site. We have an interim housing site in Hollywood, which has 114 beds, which is almost always full. And that's the one that we opened up recently. We have an interim housing site in Reseda, which has, I believe 60 units, but some of those are offline for a fire replacement project. So I don't know how many are online right now, but we have a number of units across the district. When we have encampments, we move people from encampments into those interim housing sites. And then we bring, in partnership with the city and with the mayor's office, we bring housing navigators to those sites and then connect those individuals to long-term vouchers and then find vouchers. So the sooner we're able to move people, the hope is that you have a system, right? Where you can move people indoors, you can work with them there and then match them to a long-term voucher that makes sense for them.
Thank you. And I'm going to stay on unhoused. We have a bunch of questions on unhoused, but I'm not going to get through all of them. But I do want to go on one of you talked about Larry Slade on a couple of his issues. He wanted to know, he asked, do you think that people have the right to live on the street? And the reason he's asking on that is that you voted against Los Angeles Municipal Code 41.18. And how could that code provision have been changed to garnish your support? But I also want to go to Paul's question. Can you please provide an explanation of why LAPD is not permitted to enforce 41.18 crime?
So 41.18, which is a municipal code related to homelessness, basically is a municipal, it's a ban on camping in certain locations across the city. And the code sections that I voted against were an addition to the code. So the code has certain sections that are in place, which I think make sense for the city. Like there are bans, for example, on blocking sidewalks so that you can prevent strollers and wheelchairs from being able to use the sidewalk. So you have to have on every sidewalk where there is a tent, you have to have a certain amount of distance between the edge of the sidewalk and that tent. And that's the municipal code that regulates that access to the sidewalk. There has always been a ban, for example, on camping in public parks. And I think in a park poor city like Los Angeles, to me, that municipal code makes sense, right? So that's part of 4118. That's been in the books even before I got elected. And, you know, that those are fine. There's two new provisions there's one new provision that we voted on, which was an expansion of 4118 that does allow council offices to include certain areas, particularly under overpasses, for example, as new areas where camping is banned. And this is a council district by council district discretionary process. And I did vote against it because I think that kind of discretion, that kind of decision-making around where you ban camping and where you don't is often driven not by the best interests of the entire community, housed and unhoused in a particular location, but mostly by who is shouting the loudest about a particular neighborhood. And that does not make, to me, good policy around homelessness. We need rules that are clear across the entire city. And what has happened in these 4118 zones that people have put up, because I've seen it happen, is that, for example, we had 4118 zones, for example, that were near our council district boundary, that were put up in another council district. And when they put it up, what happened was that those individuals moved down the street to our area. That's not a solution to homelessness. That's not a means that gets people indoors. That's just pushing people around from one place to another. Like, I want to work on solutions that are truly going to end homelessness. That's our shared goal. That's what we all want for the city. And I want to work on exactly those kinds of solutions. And I think, to me, that kind of council district by council district approach doesn't work for the city. It just moves around from place to place. The other piece that I think is very challenging is that often what has happened in those areas is when you ban camping in a particular area, people move into, for example, residential streets that are around that area. People lose, if they were in, often when people are in a particular encampment, they develop relationships with one another. They create a community together. One of the reasons we work on an encampment by encampment level is because we want to make sure that that community actually helps people get indoors. Like, when one person goes indoors and says, hey, this is actually a good place, they're able to bring more people indoors with them. That's what building trust looks like. That's what a good positive process can look like. But when you have these kind of spot bans, like what 4118 is designed to do, that just means that people scatter into different places, and it's actually harder to do the kind of work that we need to do to actually effectively get people indoors. As far as LAPD enforcement, I want to just dispel very clearly a myth that I think is out there, that council offices have the capacity to determine what laws are enforced in our council district and are not. That's just not how it works. When you pass the law in the city, even if I don't like that law, or even if I love that law, it's not that it is not enforced in my district if I vote against it, or if I don't like it, or that it's enforced more forcefully in my district because I love that law. That's not how it works. When the police are doing their work, they're not thinking about council district boundaries at all. They're thinking about doing their jobs as police officers and following the laws that exist on the books. So I want to just really make sure that we're dispelling that myth.
No shout outs, please. We don't shout out.
But that's,
Thank you.
we worked, yeah, I'm sorry, but that's just not true. So I don't know. It's just not.
Okay, Paul, please, if you want.
It's just not true. I will say, though, that the way in which the LAPD has responded to it, and this is a message that's coming not from me, but from police leadership, is that arresting people who are experiencing homelessness is not what they want to be doing. So this is not related to, my council office or 4118 or any of that stuff. That is something that the police are really thinking about as something that they haven't been doing across the entire city. So the 4118 law has led to very few arrests. It's led to people moving from place to place. but it has not led to arrest because that's just not, they don't believe that that's a useful pathway for them to follow. But it is not council district by council specific. I just don't have that kind of power.
Thank you. And this is not a meeting, just one-on-one, Paul. I know you're upset about this, but I don't think anybody here wants to have a one-on-one. If you want to, so, okay. So the other question I have, Diane Hart, are you here? Okay, so Diane Hart, if you can stand up, Diane. Okay, so we're going to move on to still stay with homeless. Unhoused. Diane has a great question. You can sit down now. I just wanted her to be able to address you. Okay.
She had a really good question.
She has a great question. So, but I want to go ahead and also I want to kind of start it off before we go into hers is we've been talking about the folks that are on the street.
Yeah.
Her question has to do with the people that will be coming on the street. Okay. She has an 84-year-old friend. I'm going to paraphrase it only because I want the folks on the Zoom call to also be able to hear this question. So she has a friend who's 84 years old, who's on fixed income. Social Security is only $26,000 a month. She does not, I'm sorry, a year. So yeah, really, that's inflation. So she's living day to day right now, and she is on the verge of being homeless. There's also, so there's a lot of folks that are in that same position right now. So an extra little push, 1,000, 1,500 in support would make a difference between helping a person, an elderly person. The same goes with a huge percentage of the folks that will be homeless soon. We are next victims of the street, which are the kids. We've talked about this. The kids, the foster care, they get kicked out at a certain age, and there is no life vest for these folks. There's not a program for these folks, and these kids go to the street. They become victims of prostitution, victims of drugs. These are a lot of the folks that live on our streets here in Sherman Oaks. You see these bicycles, you see these, they become organized because they have to survive. So if you can address those two, as far as the incoming housing, if we can stop that now, if we can put a life vest out there now for those folks, that's going to help your cause big time, right?
Well, it's going to help all our cause, because I feel this is the issue that homelessness is. If you ask for the top issues in the city of Los Angeles right now and in Council District 4, I think 1, 2, and 3 would be homelessness. That's the issue that we get the most calls about. That's the issue that we get the most emails about. We do a huge amount of other work. That's what Ryan and Emma and all of our field team do. And we work with all of you on it, but this is definitely top of mind for everyone. And I think that this is a great question, preventing homelessness. And I wanted to share with you some stats from today's meeting. We had a meeting of the Housing and Homelessness Committee, which I chair now. And we learned about a program called Stay Housed LA and the expenditures on that program. But what emerged from that, I just did some back of the envelope math during the meeting, but it looked like through the legal defense funds that we put out there for people. So when people are facing eviction from their home, they call in to Stay Housed LA, to the city of Los Angeles, they're referred to a lawyer, and the city has funded lawyers' fees for people who are facing eviction, right? And this program has had about a 50% success rate, that they've been able to keep 50% of people who are calling in their homes, which is amazing. And I did some back of the envelope calculations, and it looked like for about $3,500 per household, we were able to keep people in their housing, right? That is so much cheaper than the work, the effort, the staff time, and what you have to do once people are already experiencing homelessness. So I just wanted to say this is not just an important idea because it's the right thing to do, because we want people in our communities to stay in our communities, but it is also the fiscally responsible thing to do. So people let it go. Oh, that's great. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. So I just wanted to say to you, and the other thing I just want to say is that the fastest growing demographic of people experiencing homelessness, seniors. Yeah, right. Seniors. And if they're not losing their homes and ending up in their cars, they're losing their homes and leaving Los Angeles altogether. And what a pity for Los Angeles that we don't have a vibrant multi-generational community here. It's outrageous. So we have to work. And so today I'm going to ask for your help, which is we have resources that are available at the city. We have these things like stay housed. We need to understand the issues that people are facing a little bit better. When you have someone in need, let them know that they can call us. And hopefully we can, Ryan and others in our office, we have a couple of people who are trained in tenants' rights issues. We have people who know the set of programs that are available, and we will do everything in our power to make sure those individuals are connected to those resources. And when you don't have resources and there's need, we will try and find those resources or create them through city programming. So. Foster kids is another big issue. The foster care system, as you know, is run by the County of Los Angeles here in LA. So it's not coming through the city. But like so many issues with the county, I feel like sometimes they have these big systems that the supervisors are doing their best to try and fix, but the failures of that system end up becoming City of Los Angeles's biggest challenges, right? And so we really, I think this is an issue where we need to be doing a lot more. There are both new state programs that are coming forward, which are offering the most important thing to people exiting foster care, which is housing. And so there's new resources coming from Sacramento for that. And that's what I'm really excited about.
So Larry, on our next month's meeting, the county's, the county rep is, the supervisor's rep is going to be here, right?
Supervisor's rep, CD4 rep as well.
Okay, great. So maybe we can get the two heads talking and get some direction on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I'm going to do a lightning round. I'm going to change it a little bit, get a little softer, but I'm going to do a lightning round on parking meter and street issues. We have 4 folks that have put in questions. I'm just going to buzz through the questions, and I've already given Ryan these with the emails of these folks, so your office will be able to ask these. But look, you know, who here misses the days when the biggest problem that we had was potholes? Right? We used to come to these meetings, we used to get so pissed because we didn't get our pothole fixed. Now we wish that was the issue. Now we're dealing with this homeless issue. I know you are. I know. So Jules wants, Jules' question has to do with parking meters. They're in terrible condition. You put money in it, you can't even see the screen. It's so faded out. So Charles Baker, fundamental responsibility of the city is to maintain the streets. There's so many potholes in our city. When they come out to fix a repair, if there's another one three feet away, they won't do it. So stupid. I called in front of my house, the whole curb got washed out during the rains. Yeah. I've called 3 times. They've come out 3 times to fix one little part each time. And it's still not fixed. It's the stupidest thing. So anyway, why does it take 9 months to have street lights on Moore Park between Sepulveda and Columbus repaired, and then Burbank? Okay. I know it's all these are, Ryan's already got all these and he's probably already working on them. Mark Paroli, he wanted to know Burbank between over by the 405. Okay. So now we're going to get into, no, that was just a lightning round. You're fixing all that stuff, right? Are you going to fix it all? Yes or no? We have to give all these others.
Hold on, I did want to say one thing, which is, look, I'm good at getting the mic back from him too. On potholes, after these recent round of rains, the city's pothole requests went through the roof, but the mayor has funded additional staff. And so they're hoping that by the end of, I believe this month, right? Yes, that by the end of this month, all of their existing pothole complaints will have been addressed. So if your complaint has not been addressed, let us know. We will put it into the queue. Ryan over here, he's there, you're willing and partner in all of this. And if you have an issue where there's multiple potholes in one place, just flag it for us, because we're in touch with the departments when they come out sometimes, so we're able to let them know that it's a bigger problem than just one area. And then the street lights issue, that's a bigger issue. There's a lot of copper wire theft that's happening, and so the system is really lagging behind. Now the time for fixing these has reduced a little bit, but we're working to reduce it further, so you'll see some improvements on that too.
Awesome. So I was going to go over some other questions, but you brought up the copper wire. So I'm going to jump to a question that I wasn't going to ask until later, which kind of caught me by surprise as well. Jay Weitzler wants to know, you were one of 4 council members who voted against making it a misdemeanor to possess a catalytic converter without proof of ownership. This is a very expensive and difficult crime. A catalytic for people who have this stolen on their car, often causing them to be without their vehicle for months and months of waiting for replacements. Councilmember Hernandez said that the city ordinance, which would treat possession for a catalytic converter as a misdemeanor, would disproportionately target Blacks, Latino, Indigenous, and low residents. And Councilmember Dawson said, when somebody gets their stolen, the city should be doing everything possible to make sure that they're made whole, not punish another person. Do you agree with these statements? Yes or no?
Well, I did vote no on that with them, but I had a slightly different reason for voting no on this. I was actually one of 5 council members who voted no on this issue, and I love talking about policies. So this is kind of an interesting question for me. So there's a couple of issues with catalytic converter theft, which I think make it an interesting issue to make policy on, and a major problem that we have to address. One is that a lot of catalytic converter theft is being handled through basically rings of people who are doing this. So it's like people who are doing it, not just one person who's stealing something, but it's a group of people who are planning it and doing it. And why are they doing it that way? Because there are recycling markets that are accepting these for sales. And there are 2 state laws right now, AB 1740 and SB 1087, which basically targeted exactly this. They came into being, or they came into force earlier this year in 2023. And essentially those are 2 state laws that are really designed to curb the black market for stolen catalytic converters. And to me, that is a much more effective way of responding to this issue, is to get rid of the market for these stolen catalytic converters. And the other issue that I felt was really problematic here is that I think that we have a tendency when we're talking about these issues, especially when they're hot button issues that are really top of mind for people, exactly like the issue of homelessness. What we've done is to say, oh, you have an issue with homelessness in your district, instead of responding to it with work, with urgency, with focus on actually addressing the issue, we say, oh, we'll just ban it. We'll just ban it, and that'll be the end of it, instead of actually thinking about what is going to address this issue in a very real way. In this case, I think one of the things that really infuriates me is that we have a company, Toyota, who makes the Prius, that essentially has a device on their cars, which is super easy to remove. It's basically the value of a MacBook, right? That is put in a place that is incredibly easy to access in your car. And then the thefts related to this issue have essentially all of the costs of that are given to us to bear, instead of them having to manufacture a car that actually is not so easy to be stolen. I think it's outrageous. Our police department is dealing with it. Our residents are dealing with it. Yeah. Huh? No, I'm sorry. I just said that there's 2 different laws that are actually already addressing it. And I think we are now doing programs in our cities. We're spending money now, the city's money, to etch catalytic converters, to put a wire frame on catalytic converters. And this is essentially a design flaw that is now impacting our communities. I don't know why the company can't deal with it themselves. The main reason is because there are these 2 other laws that I think will really attack the market. And I think increasing the penalty on something.
I'm going to move on. I make a few comments on this too, but no, I understand. I have the money. I mean, it's almost like blaming the victim. I mean, is the city of Los Angeles responsible for making the cop? We have copper crime as far as people going out and stealing copper wires. Is that because the city made it easy for them?
No,
it's costing the taxpayers. If somebody's
It is already illegal, by the way. That's the key. It's already illegal to steal copper wire and it's already illegal to steal a catalytic converter. So that's the thing. So it doesn't stop it yet. So I'm like, what are we actually gonna do to stop it?
So let me just, I just want to go ahead and maybe, do you want me to repeat the question? The question is, you voted against it, making it a misdemeanor.
I voted against.
Making it a misdemeanor, possess a catalytic converter without proof of ownership. That's what the question is.
Yeah. Well, they were saying, and I think that, so I talked about why I voted against it. I think there's two laws that I think will target this much more meaningfully. I think that passing laws that are not going to really do anything. We had a law, for example, that was passed on bike theft. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was on like stealing bikes and keeping them on a sidewalk. I also voted against that. It's the law of land. This is also the law of the land, so it's not a big deal. The number of cases that have been prosecuted using that new law is 6. These are not useful laws unless they're actually meaningfully reducing them. And my goal, and it's already illegal to steal these things.
I think that this audience doesn't agree with this. Okay, let's move on, you guys. Let's move on. We have other questions. I was going to go into my next set of questions before we got into that was actually going to be the CD office, your CD office and your staffing, which again, we love Ryan and we love your staffing. So a couple of questions that we have here is Tom Glick wanted to know on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being terrific and 1 being terrible. How would you rate your job and that of your staff as for our community as a whole? And then I've got a few questions having to do with that.
I mean, it's not really for me to rate. All I can say is that we do work very, very hard. And I think we pride ourselves on an office that works incredibly hard to get results for our constituents. When people bring us issues, we really, really focus until we're able to find a real resolution for them. And I think that's what the city needs more than anything else. When you look around at the city of Los Angeles, so much of what you see on the street is because I feel like people just don't care about the results. And we have an office full of people. I have one of the largest offices in City Hall. I've invested in that team. It's an incredible team of people who are so dedicated. And I think those of you who've interacted with my staff know how much of themselves they bring to their work every single day, and how much of myself I bring to my work every day. We are really, really dedicated. So I guess on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of how hard we work, I think we bring a 10 in terms of hard work. I hope that we're delivering results for you, but that's really for you to say. I think we've made real improvements in Sherman Oaks since I've been here.
Okay, Jody Francisco, you here? Yes. As vice chair of the Ad Hoc Governance Reform Committee, where are you on changing the city charter to make redistricting a truly independent process in the city of Los Angeles?
Well, so I actually introduced the motion on independent redistricting and independent. I don't know if you guys followed the redistricting process. Well, Bob did. That's for sure.
40 years in the row. 40 years in the row.
Well, so we have a redistricting process here in Los Angeles, which is not very, yes, exactly. It's not clear, it's not transparent, it's really not a, it does not yield good outcomes for the city. It's not based on what communities need, it has been based on what politicians need, because that's the way it's been designed. And, you all saw the fallout of that on the news. You all saw what happened as a result of these issues. And I introduced a motion on independent redistricting right after our redistricting process in the city. They slow walked agendizing it because leadership in the council wanted to keep that power for themselves. That was when Mary Martinez was still here. And it was finally agendized in October. Yeah.
Please don't show.
And then after the case came out, I also created I submitted a motion and it has been created an ad hoc committee on governance reform in the city. Because I think so much of what we're dealing with here in LA is because we don't have good governance reform in place. And so this is a committee that's looking at issues like ethics and lobbying reform. We need our municipal lobbying rules are 30 years old. They are really, really outdated. And so this ad hoc committee on governance reform is going through the redistricting, independent redistricting process and going through looking at things like lobbying reform. And I wanted to share with you that the ad hoc committee will be going on the road. And I believe we will be in Van Nuys City Hall soon, right? All right. Yes, and I don't know what the date is, but I'll get it to you and you can put it in the newsletter. But you can come out to Van Nuys City Hall and you can give on what a truly independent redistricting process looks like. Because I think this is going to be really important for LA. It's going to make it better. And the other thing that they're talking about, and this, I'm curious, can I ask a question to people? There's also I know I do. There's also a push to expand the number of council districts so that they're not 260,000 people are. Right? Yes. So the last time that this was on the ballot, the people of Los Angeles voted it down. You know why? They didn't want more politicians. Yeah. So we'll see what happens this time. But if you want that and you want independent redistricting, please come and make your voice heard in these meetings. So I'll let you know what the information is.
So we're over the time, but we're gonna have two really quick questions. But before I ask the last two questions, make sure you guys clean up your tables before you leave. Otherwise, Jules will be here all night. And we don't want that to happen. Also, if you see Jay Weitzler before you leave, wish him a happy birthday. He's just turned 80. Oh. And make sure you put in your calendar third Wednesday next month for the for our next meeting. And stick around if you guys want to talk around, but don't stick around for too long because we're going to be pushing the chairs around and cleaning the place up. I think I covered all of that. So did I cover all that, Bob? Okay. So two quick questions, and then you guys can leave. So the questions. I know, but then you. So Robert Tomlinson, are you here? Okay. Okay. So this is. Interesting question. When it comes to non-weaponized response to disturbances in the area, would you ever consider neighborhood watch to respond with proper training from LAPD?
I mean, sure. He just brought me this idea beforehand, so I already knew it. It was not a surprise.
Thanks.
And I'm very open to what a unarmed response looks like. I think there's probably different communities will have different resources available to them. And I certainly think that this is something that we could consider. My questions would be, how many people are actually involved in these organizations? Are they able to be a 24/7 kind of response? Are they able to come out when called? What kind of training are they willing to get? Even a neighborhood council, which is a more systematized setup for some of these things. I know that people are a little frustrated with the amount of time they have to spend on it, the time that they're supposed to do the trainings. So I have questions, but I'm open to talking to you about it and learning more about the way in which you've structured your neighborhood watch.
Okay, so before I get to the last question, if I didn't ask your question, you guys, they're right here and they're going to go to this person. So our councilman. So I'm going to pick one more question. This is a really quick, easy question. Bill Birkenau? How? Right here. Okay. What percentage of the homeless population are veterans?
That's a great question. I actually don't know that answer off the top of my head, and I'm sorry. There's usually about, in the last time I checked, there were about 5,000 homeless veterans in the, but I don't know, I think it might have been in the county of Los Angeles, not in the city.
Okay.
So it's, you know the answer?
No, but I wanted to ask you, how many of these homeless are ever lived in California? They come from all over, but we give them everything.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because I think this is a question that comes up all the time. She asked, how many of the people who are experiencing homelessness are even from California? And I will say that it really differs based on where you are in the city of Los Angeles. So that question tends up being true when you're in, for example, at the beaches, like Santa Monica and Venice. It ends up being true a little bit in Hollywood. People do come to Hollywood. People do come to the beaches from other places a lot more than other places in Los Angeles. In our experience in encampments in the valley, for example, in the riverbed, a lot of those people are people who, you know, who have been here for many, many years, even if they were not born here, that they moved here. Like, for example, a very common story we hear is that they came here to work in Hollywood and that their career didn't quite work out, and then they lost their job and then they end up being unhoused. You know, that's a very common thing, but those are people who lived in California, in Los Angeles for many, many years. They're here as much as many of us are who are not born and bred here, you know? And so I think that there is, I think, a real misconception about what percentage of people who are experiencing homelessness are from here or from other places. Many who are experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles, particularly in this area, are from LA. So, yeah.
Can I ask one more question? So you said something about coming to Hollywood, you know, coming here for the industry. And I'm just curious because we are on the brink of a possible writer's strike. And the last writer's strike we had devastated Los Angeles. And I'm just curious because I saw a question here and I didn't get to it. And I apologize for that. But their question was, what's your opinion or what's your thought? Do you support going on strike or not?
Well, you know, my husband's in the Writers Guild, and they voted to strike. And yeah, 98% voted to strike. And the industry is really changing, and it's changed in ways that are really not good for writers.
Well, it'll be a short strike.
I think it will be a short strike. The reality is the industry is changing significantly. You know, it's a very different industry from the industry he joined 15, 20 years ago. It just looks really different. We have to think about ways of getting people who are who are creative. But you know, so I'll just one very common story I heard about people who are involved in writing right now. So many of them didn't make the guild minimum to even be able to vote on strike, because the way in which the industry is structured is such that a lot of people who are working in the industry do not get regular work anymore. It's very different from the industry that my husband joined when he left college and moved out here, wrote a script. He worked on network shows, which had 26 episodes a year. And it was like almost like a 9 to 5, right? It was very much like a regular job. That kind of job does not exist anymore. The last time anything he was on had a 26 episode order was 5-6 years ago. You know, yeah, that's a producer is just like a level of writer. It's not. No, it's not. It's just. It's producing credits on his IMDb. That's just because he's 29 writing credits. Sorry, Paul. I'm sorry, but you actually don't know enough about the industry and the way it classifies writers to understand. Those are just classifications that you get to when you're a writer. He's not. He is a writer. Like that's what he does. He writes scripts. Yeah. I hope. I don't think. You know what? I have not seen a good joke by AI. ChatGPT is not going to beat my husband. Right?
All right. Like her questions or don't like her questions. Thank you very much for coming again. Thank you.
So I just, before everybody leaves, I just wanted to say thank you again. And I think one of the things I really wanted to underscore is that we work hard for the district. And I think that really shows in our staff and in our work. And I hope that you continue to engage with us, to continue to teach us, and to help us continue to work with you. Thank you.